ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
Who else could it be? For me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Monday Night Football Overtime. Ravens, Chargers, really good matchup between two 7-win teams. Chargers came into the game riding a 4-game winning streak at 7-3. Ravens coming off a tough loss, hard fought at Baltimore or at Pittsburgh a week ago, coming into the game at 7-4. Ravens got a gift on Thursday Night Football with the Pittsburgh Steelers losing to the Cleveland Browns. So a win would move them a half game within first place, meaning that they essentially would be in a position where they could control the outcome of this season. All they would have to do would be beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, win the rest of their games, which would be a part of that, and they'd win the division. I think they're going to win the division. I told you guys as much after last week's contest versus Pittsburgh that I thought they would still win this division because I don't see the Steelers as the best team in that division. That said, you got to go out and you got to take care of business, and that's what the Ravens did tonight. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw this matchup again. I think these are two playoff teams this upcoming season, and I think the Ravens are going to win their division, hence host a playoff game. I think the Chargers are going to be a wild card, obviously playing in the same division as the Chiefs, and thus you could easily see a matchup here where the Ravens end up being the 3 seed in the AFC, the Chargers end up being the 6 seed, and this is your wild card weekend matchup between these two teams, or one of the wild card matchups in the AFC. But I really thought this was a good start for the Chargers. Let's start with the Ravens. I thought it was a good start for the Chargers, but the Ravens did a really good job of weathering the storm. I thought we've made fun of the Chargers' lack of home field advantage over the years, this, that, and the third, but you're starting to see that there's an excitement kind of building with this franchise, with Harbaugh being there, them feeling like maybe we really got something now. It was loud. It felt like a home field advantage for the Chargers in this game, and they got off to a fast start, and they had to weather the storm, and they did. It was a lot like the game last night, honestly speaking, and those two teams are going to play each other. Eagles 9-2, Ravens 8-4. That's going to be a big matchup. Might be the best matchup of week 13 next week. But remember, the Rams were at home, got off to a fast start. They did fumble on that opening possession, though, but they were moving the ball. And then, the Eagles were able to settle in after the 2 possessions for the Rams, the second of which resulted in a touchdown. Same thing kind of happened here, except in the inverse. Ravens got off to the slow start. Chargers went right down the field, opening possession. Herbert gets in the end zone, and you're saying, wow, okay, all right, I see you. And they got off to that fast start. Ravens had to settle for a field goal. They weren't able to get in the end zone right away, or I think that was the case. And because the score was 14-10. So they didn't settle for a field goal. But I think it was 7-3, 7-7. It was 7-0. And then the Chargers kicked a field goal, and I think they went up 10-0. That's what it was. They were up 10-0. And then the Ravens scored a touchdown, got it to 10-7, scored another touchdown, took the lead 14-10, and never looked back. Even though they gave up the field goal right before half, they started to dominate the game from that point forward. So they started off slow. It was 10-0. And Lamar put together a drive, got him into the end zone. Lamar Jackson's a cheat code. And I know he's a 2-time league MVP, but I said this earlier in the season, and I don't remember what game it was, but it had to be after a primetime game. I'm trying to think of what primetimer it would have been. It had to be the Buccaneers game when they devoured Tampa Bay 41-31, I believe it was. Score really doesn't indicate what that game was. They dominated that game, but I remember saying after that game, this is the best I've ever seen Lamar Jackson play. And we heard Aikman and Buck say the same thing tonight. Like, you look at his numbers statistically, You watch him play. In past years, Lamar would have taken off and run in a lot of these situations. You know, there's a couple of throws, one that comes to mind in particular tonight. And look, it bit him in the ass last week against Pittsburgh. There were some opportunities for him to take off and run last week, and he decided to throw, and it didn't work. But you're more likely to get a big play with Lamar with him using his legs, suck up the defense, and then find an open receiver than you are him running, taking off and running, which he can be dynamic in that regard as well, as we all know. But tonight, he had an opportunity to take off and run. And instead, he threw the ball to Rashad Bateman. It ended up being incomplete. But it was a great decision because Bateman could have caught the football, didn't make the catch. But it's just another example of Lamar and his evolution. He's not looking like there was another play to Mark Andrews where normally he would have, in the past, he would have just taken off and run. But instead, he got to Mark Andrews. Andrews runs up the field and gets a gain of about 8 or 9. And it's the growth that we've seen from Lamar this year. He's been much more accurate from the pocket. He's been even more dynamic and explosive out of the pocket as a passer. He's still a cheat code as a runner. The one play that took my breath away tonight, and he makes it look so effortless that he's done these things so many times that people don't even ooh and ah anymore, which they should. It's the same thing I used to say about Peyton Manning and Tom Brady when they were at their apex, and I would don't take what these two are doing for granted because we may never see this level of quarterbacking again, from the pocket, right? True pocket passers, dissecting defenses with their minds pre-snap, getting guys lined up, winning the line of scrimmage battle before the play even takes place, and then going out and executing and shredding defenses once the ball is snapped. Don't take these, 31 for 39 for 382-yard, 4 touchdown, 5 touchdown, no interception games for granted. And with Lamar, don't take his artistry for granted. There's a play where they go play action fake. He turns his back to the defense. He turns around and immediately Tier Tart is in this man's grill. Why are you all in my grill? And Lamar just subtly, instinctually, just whoop, jumps backwards and just lets him go right by him and then calmly steps up in the pocket and delivers the football to Kohler, the tight end. And I'm just like, Lamar is ridiculous. But he's one of a kind. He's a unicorn. And when you watch him do the things that he does, no one else can do what he does. He kind of did the same thing on the touchdown run. It wasn't quite the same, but I've seen him do that a lot. But the one where he avoided the rusher, turn his back, turn around, the guy's in his face, and just instinctually just jumps back. And the guy just goes by him, and then he calmly just steps up, delivers the ball to Charlie Kohler. He had one on the touchdown run where the defender was going to hit him. If he would have raced him to the pylon, he would have scored, but he also would have taken a hit. So Lamar, knowing that he can avoid, major contact here, decides, because if I'm a defender and I've chased you all this way and I know you're going to score and I don't give a shit, I'm going to hit you because I'm not going to get a penalty for hitting you as you cross the goal line there because it's a race to that pylon. So I'm going to smack you, right? I'm going to hit you as hard as I can. And Lamar knows that. He knows that. So instead of taking that hit, he just puts the brakes on, jumps backwards. The guy grabs him, but, just kind of swings him into the end zone gently, and it's a touchdown, right? Save yourself a hit. So, Lamar's just a different animal, man. And, the accuracy, the touchdown pass to the back of the end zone to Mark Andrews was a thing of beauty. The touchdown pass to Rashad Bateman, what are we talking about, man? That pass was just chef's kiss. Lamar is, again, I think he should be squarely in that MVP conversation. Right now, it feels like a 3-man race between Lamar Jackson, and I think he's kind of, just because he's won 2 already and the Ravens aren't in the hunt for, the number one seed, it may be a little bit tougher for him to grab it this year. It's a lot easier for you to grab that MVP trophy when your team is the best in the conference. The 2 times Lamar has won MVP, the Ravens were the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. So generally, they try to reward the best player on the best team. And so I don't think Lamar is going to get it unless, they don't lose another game and the pack kind of comes back to them, so to speak. But I think he should be in that discussion along with Saquon Barkley and Josh Allen right now. Those, to me, are your 3 leaders in the clubhouse in terms of the MVP conversation. And he added another notch to his belt tonight with another, really good performance. This wasn't like earth-shattering. Lamar had to put the team on his back, 16 to 22, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns. You throw in whatever rush yards he had, wasn't a ton tonight because they were able to turn around and hand it to Derrick Henry. Let's talk about King Henry. He is in a race himself for the rushing title with Saquon Barkley, who went apeshit last night, 255 on the ground in that same building, as a matter of fact. And that gave Saquon the lead, which Derrick Henry has held for much of the season. Henry put on a show himself tonight. There's a number of runs that you could point to as impressive, but none was more impressive, and none, I think, epitomizes what Derrick Henry is more than the 4th down run that he had to the outside, where he stiff arms not 1, but 2 Charger defenders to then turn the corner and get the first down on 4th and 1. Deion Henley had him dead to rights. He stiff arms him, keeps going. Up comes the rookie corner to heave still. He catches a stiff arm for his troubles. 1 to the face. Stills is to the shoulder pad. Neither of them get him on the ground. He turns the corner and gets a gain of about 3 or 4 in the first down. And that is Derrick Henry at his best right there, where that stiff arm is out. He's a physical guy, and we've never seen anything like him, and I don't know if we'll ever see anything like him again, because he's got change of direction. He's got the stiff arm. He's got the acceleration. He's got the power, right? And again, I've still haven't seen anybody catch Derrick Henry from behind once he's able to break into the clear. So he's all of these things, but he's still so nimble that he can bounce a run on 4th and 1 outside, stiff arm 2 guys, turn the corner, and get the first down. He's phenomenal. Another 100-yard rushing performance for him tonight as he passed 1,300 yards. Saquon is damn near at 1,400. I think he's at 1,392, I think I saw tonight, or 1,393, somewhere in that neighborhood. Derrick at that time was at 1,299. He probably added another 25 or 30 yards after that. So he's somewhere in that 1,330 range. But it's going to be fun, too, because those two, obviously their teams meet next week. And the leader after that game could be the one that has the better game. And honestly, the better, rusher probably is going to be the one that is the winning team in that game. But we'll talk more about that matchup later on in the week. But nice compliment Justice Hill is to Lamar Jackson. He had the big run for the touchdown that really popped this thing open. It was a 23-16 game. That made it 30-16, and that pretty much put this thing on ice. I want to talk about their defense real quick, and then we got to talk about John Harbaugh's decisions tonight, because they were really the difference in this game. So the defense without its leader, without Roquan Smith, did a pretty good job. Now, I'll tell you this. I thought the turning point in this game was when J.K. Dobbins got injured. The Chargers had a run game. They were consistently moving the football. Dobbins gets hurt right before halftime. The Chargers get that drive right before half, get a field goal. He doesn't come out for the second half, doesn't play in the second half, and the Chargers ended up with negative yards rushing in the second half. So I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't think that their offense being somewhat, not somewhat, they were non-existent on offense in the second half until that last possession. I don't think it's a coincidence that it kind of coincides with J.K. Dobbins's absence in the second half of this game. But credit the Ravens defense. They were flying around tonight. They got some help from Quentin Johnston. We'll talk about him when we get to the Chargers. He had a rough go of it tonight. But when it's all said and done, we know the Ravens have one of the better run defenses in football. They don't have a great pass defense. And, they're throwing multiple corners out there. We saw Jalen Armour Davis. We saw the rookie Wiggins. They just picked up before the trade deadline Tre'Davious White. He was out there. They got Brandon Stevens. Like they're trying to figure it out, right? And then you got Marlon Humphreys in the slot, really pretty much at this point. So they're trying to figure out who their boundary corners are going to be. There's a mixture of guys that they're throwing out there. They're really deep at corner, but they aren't great corners, right? None of them are except for Humphreys. So it's a tough go of it, and that's why they've struggled in the past, defense department. But they were able to get a little bit of pressure on Herbert, especially later in the game once the run was kind of taken away. But their ability to really shut the faucet off in that second half, all they surrendered was a field goal up until that final possession. Their ability to really keep the Chargers out of, manageable down and distances, so they couldn't even think about going for it. Credit that defense. And you also got to say that the Chargers had some self-inflicted wounds, some penalties that pushed them back, some holding penalties that were big. We'll talk about that more when we get to the Chargers side of things. But this defense did what they needed to do in the second half, and they made that lead pretty much hold up and secured the victory. But I want to talk about John Harbaugh's decisions in this game, because I don't agree with every single one of them. Like going for it at your own, 16-yard line is insane. It's insanity. But they got it. They did not get it by much, but they got it. But it just hammers home the point that I've been making to Commanders fans. And, someone said something today about coaches need to be who they are, and I agree with that. But my thing is, don't send mixed signals, right? Just be who you are, right? If you're aggressive, be aggressive. If you're conservative, be conservative. But this notion of, there may be times where you are a conservative coach, but you want to be aggressive in this spot, then you go do that. But it sends mixed signals to your team when they don't know what you're going to do. Like Harbaugh is always aggressive. Now, that was a bit aggressive, a bit much, even for Harbaugh, right? That's not something that he does often, but the aggressive coaches in the league are willing to take that risk. We've seen the Lions do that as well, right? Fake a field goal, first game of the season last year against the Chiefs. It worked. They went down, they scored a touchdown, they ended up winning the game 20-19. Again, it doesn't always work. And when it doesn't work, you look like an idiot and you got egg on your face. But when it works, we call you a genius. But all I like is, even if it didn't work, had they lost the game, people would have been killing him and crucifying him for it. But what I love is his aggressive mindset. I do love that. I don't love that particular decision, but they went for it 4 times on 4th down in this game. They got all 4 of them, and all 4 of those 4th down conversions led to points, right? 3 of them were on one possession. The other one was on the first time they went for it all the way back in their own territory at their own 16. They scored a touchdown on that possession, and the other 3 were on the same possession, and they scored a touchdown on that possession as well. And that was the difference in the game. His aggressiveness there, pushing the envelope, helped them win this game. Had they punted the football, could have been a totally different outcome. Had they not gone for it, because 2 of those 4th downs they went for were in Chargers territory. One of them, they were already in field goal range. They could have just kicked the field goal and gone up by 2 scores. At that point, they were up 7 at that juncture. So again, them pushing the envelope was the key to them extending that lead and really putting this game away. Even the decision, and I thought about this because I knew who I was watching, when they were up by 1 and they scored the touchdown, and I knew that would push it to 7, an extra point would push it to 8. I immediately in my head said, if they score a touchdown here, I bet you he goes for 2 to try to make it a 2-score game, to go up 9 instead of 8, right? Which, again, I don't know if I would have done that, because I just think it's so tough to get 2-point conversions in this league, especially when you score a touchdown and then you need a 2 to tie. It's one thing to need a 2 to win versus need it to tie, right? There's this feeling, this feeling of comfort. One, knowing that not only do you need a touchdown, you need a 2-point conversion just to tie the game. Like if you don't get the 2, you lose. But there's another feeling of, hey, if I'm up 8, I can't lose this game in regulation if they decide to get aggressive. Say they score a touchdown with 6 seconds left and we're up 7. They scored a touchdown and then they decide to go for 2. I could lose the game. So there's this level of comfort that comes with, hey, I can't lose this game in regulation if I'm up 8. And hey, we should have a great opportunity to win this game because they not only need the touchdown, they need a 2-point conversion. He decided to roll the dice. To hell with all of that. The chance to go up 2 scores is greater than the loss of being only up 7. Right? That was his mindset. It didn't work. They didn't get the 2-point conversion, but it didn't matter anyway. It didn't come back to bite them. But that's his mindset. And that's the point I'm trying to make is establish who you are so your team knows what you're about. The worst thing you can do is create confusion amongst your players so that they don't know what time it is when they get, like, if I'm a player, say you play for the Detroit Lions and it's 3rd and 9 and I'm Jared Goff, I will check it down on 3rd and 9 and get a gain of 7 or get a gain of 6. Why? Because I know my coach. And if I get us to 4th and 3 or 4th and 2, I know he's going to go for it. If we're in the right position of the field, if we're around midfield, if we're just past midfield and it's 3rd and 9, and I see my running back sitting over the center and I check it down to him and he gets a gain of 6, it's 4th and 3, my coach is going for it. Hell, we could be at our own 45 and that same scenario poses itself. And if I check it down and get 6 and we're at midfield and it's 4th and 3, my coach is going for it. So that play, like, it's the same thing with play callers. If I know my head coach is aggressive and I've got the green light on 4th down and short, I can call a play here that doesn't necessarily have to pick up the 1st down because we got another down, right? That goes into the play calling. So it's a lot different when you already know what your coach is going to do versus not knowing, right? Now I feel like I got to press and try to get this 1st down because if I don't, we're going to punt. And your coach could be thinking, hey, you got 2 downs here, but the team doesn't know it because one week you're going for it on 4th down. The next week you're punting the football or you're kicking a field goal. So I just love that Harbaugh is aggressive all the time, right? Be who you are, have an identity, establish it, and your players can then play freely knowing this is what we do. And he showed it again tonight. So you get to the other side of the Harbaugh Bowl III, right? Harbaugh Bowl III. Jim has been on the short end of the stick all 3 times. And I knew he would be on the short end again this week because you never want to play the Ravens after they've lost again. This is another reason why I told Commanders fans, don't compare us to them. Don't compare us to the Steelers. Don't compare us to the Ravens because this is what they do, right? Hard-fought loss on the road against a lesser opponent. You know when the Ravens lost to the Browns, you know what they did the next week? They beat the Denver Broncos 41-10. That's how you take care of business after you fall against a team you had no business losing to in the division. That ain't what we finna do to Tennessee. All right. Like, I don't know who the Steelers are playing this week. I think they're playing Cincinnati, if I'm not mistaken. We'll see what they do. My guess is they bounce back. That's my guess. I could be wrong, but we'll see. Anyway, for the Chargers, it was a good start to the game. It really was. Herbert took them right down the field. They never experienced the 3rd down. They were in rhythm. Ladd McConkey got off to a fast start. The run game was working and clicking with J.K. Dobbins. Herbert was using his legs. Herbert was using his arm. They were in sync. They go down. Herbert uses his legs, gets into the end zone, and it's 7-0, and you're like, okay, that's a hell of a start. You continue to move the ball on your second possession. If I'm not mistaken, you end up with a field goal. It's 10-0. And you had the Ravens on the ropes. But then Lamar and company got cooking. And I really feel like the turning point of the game was J.K. Dobbins' injury. There were a couple of penalties that really hurt you. I guess if you're a Chargers fan, you could be upset about the no call or the picking up of the flag down the field on the Brandon Stevens pass interference that was initially flagged, but then a conference was had and they decided to pick the flag up. I thought it was the right decision to pick the flag up. I just thought it was an uncatchable football, right? Now, was there enough contact for pass interference? Sure. I think there was enough contact there, but I blame Palmer for stopping so short of where that ball ultimately landed. It made it look uncatchable. But I mean, it's a 14-point game at that point. There's still enough time if they score a touchdown there that this thing could have gotten interesting. So I don't want to dismiss that whole situation. But before you even get there, you're up 10-0. It's 14. And I thought another, kind of turning point was Herbert had an opportunity to hit Palmer up the seam, really more like a skinny post late in the first half for a touchdown, and he missed him. And they ended up getting in the field goal range and getting the field goal. But a touchdown there, or even if that's not a touchdown, it's just a catch. They're now in business. I think at that time they still had like 2 timeouts, plenty of time. They could have gotten into the end zone potentially, and that could have changed everything. But they got the field goal, which was great on their part, but they lost Dobbins on that possession. There was a check down there, kind of got his knee screwed up there. His left knee was kind of in an awkward position. Didn't seem like much when it initially happened, but when you watch the replay, you could tell his knee was not in a great spot there. Never came back in the game, and they had 76 rush yards in the first half, most of them charged to J.K. Dobbins' account. And then you go from that to the second half. We were midway through the fourth quarter, and they had -6 rush yards in the second half. And that was the lack of J.K. Dobbins' effect. And I don't think they were able to really function in that second half the way that they did in the first half because they didn't have that consistent run game to keep that offensive attack balanced. I knew Greg Roman really wanted this one bad because he was going up against the team that pretty much told him, hey, we appreciated what you did, but, you weren't good enough for us anymore. We were looking for better. And so he really wanted to stick it to him tonight. And there were several opportunities, and the players just didn't make plays. There's a play on a third down where, and this is one of the issues with the Chargers. And look, it's the first year of their GM. I was about to say Tom Telesco. They got a new GM. It's the first year of Jim Harbaugh. They were in cap hell, so they had to shed some, cap, and they didn't really replenish a lot of the guys they moved on from. They traded Keenan Allen. They let Mike Williams go. I don't really like bringing up Austin Eckler because while he was a major part of what they did over the years, he wasn't really a big fixture last year in particular, but Eckler's not there either. He was still a weapon for them for many, many, many years. So you move on from all those guys and you replace them with who exactly? Ladd McConkey's been excellent. He's been Justin Herbert's security blanket and best receiver this season. But Will Dissly, like the fact that I'm talking to you about Jalen Reagor is a problem. I've talked about this. This is why I can't take the Chargers seriously this year in particular, is because they just don't have enough. There's a third down where Herbert, he gets to Reagor late, but he puts it right there, and it's a chance for him to catch that football, get the first down, and he gets hit upon catching the football, and the ball comes out. You could say, well, it was bang, bang, ball gets there, gets hit, ball comes out. It happens, but Reagor stinks. So I'm not giving him the benefit of the doubt. Catch the damn football, right? And so that was a missed opportunity. And this is what happens when You're relying on Jalen Reagor. I've been joking about them relying on Simi Fioco, who was a big fixture earlier this season. Now, QJ's having a really good year, right? This is Quentin Johnston's, second year in the league, I believe. This is year 2, if not year 2, year 3. I think it's year 2. And last year he was really bad, right? To the point where you're like, this guy might be a bust. I don't like using the B word on young players. Give him a chance. Everybody matures at a different rate. He was having a really good year this year, and he still is, right? Especially compared to last year. But he had a rough go of it tonight. And one of the issues he had as a rookie were drops. He'd been making big plays this year. He had been a spark at times this season. And tonight, he was the polar opposite. He was one of the biggest reasons why the offense was stagnant in the second half. He had a shallow cross on the third down that he had a chance to not only catch, but turn up the field. And if he would have gotten a block, he might have had a chance to score like he did in that playoff game when he was at TCU versus Michigan, when he caught that pass up the sideline and took off for a touchdown. It had the makings of that, but he forgot the most important thing, and that's to catch the football first. Then he had another play on the sidelines. That one could have been good defense, trying to catch the ball. He gets hit, ball comes out. But then he had another one where he just flat out dropped it on the sidelines, and you're like, okay, yeah, this kid's struggling now. So he had a rough go of it tonight. 3 drops, but none bigger than the third down drop he had on that shallow cross, because the game was still within reach for the Chargers at that time. If I'm not mistaken, it might have been 23-16 at that time. That was before the big run by Justice Hill. But ultimately, the Chargers' lack of weaponry, it's going to be their undoing this season if they don't make the playoffs or if they don't advance in the playoffs. But they're in the first year of Jim Harbaugh. And what he's doing is he's changing the culture. He's getting them into a position where they understand that they're going to be competing at a high level moving forward. They've got the quarterback. They've got the 2 bookend tackles. They got a really good receiver in Ladd McConkey. They have to add to that. They're going to add a tight end, I would assume, next year, because if you're in a Greg Roman offense, you got to have a dynamic tight end. And Will Dissly is not that. But he has played better. Really well this year as Will Dissly. But that's not a role you want him in and being featured as. I think they've got to upgrade the running back position. Dobbins has been a great story. I want to hear what the injury is. But anytime we're talking about a lower extremity injury for J.K. Dobbins, I always get concerned. You're talking about a guy that has a history of lower extremity injuries that have been of the major variety, Achilles, ACL. So when you start thinking about those things, anytime he has anything down there, you just get a little nervous. So hopefully it's nothing too bad, but when you talk about J.K. Dobbins and anything lower extremity wise, you just get nervous. So you can see the impact that he has on this offense. You're not going to be able to rely on the rookie Kamani Vidal. You're not going to be able to rely on Gus Edwards to carry the load, in the run game. And so it's a pretty significant injury if he can't get back on the field relatively quickly. And so it was a valiant effort by the Chargers, but this is one of those games where you just look at them and say, you just don't have enough. Try again next year when you upgrade the talent around Justin Herbert. But they did what they had to do, right? They spent their first round pick on the tackle. They could have taken one of those elite receivers. They could have taken Malik Nabers, and they were very tempted to take one of those receivers. I think I heard that Harbaugh would have taken Rome Odunze. You couldn't. I didn't think you could go wrong with either one of those guys. Nabers is the more dynamic and elite one of the two, but if his cup of tea, the guy that, because we see Nabers is a bit, he's a bit out there, right? He's a diva. He's a number 1 receiver that wants the ball, and you don't want that kind of guy being paired with Justin Herbert necessarily, because those 2 personalities may clash a bit. And so Rome Odunze might have been the better choice for them, but they did the thing that was responsible. That's taking the tackle. Now you have Alt and you have Rashad Slater. And so now you got bookend tackles to protect Herbert, to open up holes in the running game, and they'll have to upgrade the weaponry next offseason. But for the time being, they got what they got, and it's gotten them to 7-4 to this point. Can it get them to the finish line as one of the top 7 teams in the AFC when it's all said and done? That's the million-dollar question. But it's not good enough to beat teams the likes of Baltimore and Buffalo and Kansas City, even though it's family business. Just they don't have enough, right? That's what it all boils down to. And then if you lose a J.K. Dobbins, you're in even more trouble. So Chargers fall tonight, 30-23 to the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens improved to 8-4. Chargers dropped to 7-4. I said this at the top of the show. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw this matchup again in Baltimore in mid-January in wildcard weekend. I could see the Ravens winning the AFC North, ending up being the 3 seed. I could see the Chargers being the 6 seed in the playoffs as the 3rd wild card or the 2nd wild card, excuse me. And I could see this being a 3-6 matchup come wildcard weekend. So wouldn't be shocked if we see these two teams lock horns once again a little bit later on down the road. But in any event, let's get to Inside the Odds, powered by Bet US.
Inside the Odds.
Looking for a new book? Bet US has you covered. Fastest payouts in the industry. Get back up to 10% on your net losses twice a year as long as you were active in the last 6 months. And here's the big kicker for brand new users. Use the promo code YouTube150 to get you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit of up to $2,000. 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000 when you use the promo code YouTube150. Also remember, bet responsibly. Don't bet more than you can afford to lose. And most importantly, do not chase your losses. Very dangerous rabbit hole to go down. But if you're going to bet with the best, and the best is Bet US. So these are the odds via Bet US. Ravens were a 3-point favorite on the road. They covered the spread, winning this game by 7. No surprise there. The over-under total was at 50, so a lot of people were waiting with bated breath late in this ball game when the Chargers were looking to get those points at the end. They needed that pass interference that they got to keep that drive alive. They ultimately got in the end zone, scored the touchdown, pushed the total to 53. That's where it ended. So those with the over on that total hit on that number. I was on the under here. I thought the total was going to be 44. That was my number. I thought the score was going to be somewhere in that 24-20 range. That was what I was kind of banking on. 27-17, somewhere in there. That was where I was. 26-18, something along those lines. Ravens win. So I thought the number was 44. They set it at 50, and it hit the over on that total. So the next time the Ravens are on prime time, same thing I said about the Eagles, I want to explore the MVP race. I looked at some odds a couple of weeks ago for the Ravens for the AFC North. And you know what? We can still pull this one up. This one is still relevant, even though it's a little bit older. This is from BetUS's site a week ago. This is for the AFC conference winner, right? So I talked about where the Steelers were, where the Ravens were, where everyone was. And even though the Ravens had just lost to the Steelers last week, all right, remember this was from last Monday, right? So that game took place on Sunday. So the day after, BetUS still had the Ravens as a better favorite to win the conference in the AFC, which not necessarily win the AFC North, right? They could still get there as a wild card. But what it says to me, and it's the same thing I've been saying, is that the Baltimore Ravens are the better team between them and the Steelers. I think they're still going to win that division. They're now back a half game, and they still play the Steelers once more. So, we'll see. The Ravens obviously have a big one this week coming up against the Steelers, or excuse me, the Eagles. Both teams, the Steelers and the Ravens, both play the Eagles down the stretch. So, and then they play each other. So, some comparable games to finish up. We'll see how both teams kind of navigate that situation. But I'm going to give a shout out to BetUS for those odds and powering this stream. So, with that said, let's get to the comment section. And let me explain this to those of you who aren't aware. If you're out there and you want your comment read on the air, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air if it is pertinent and time permits. If you want to ensure that your comment is read, however, super chats are the way to go about that. Hit that super chat function, put your comment in there, and that'll allow you to jump not only straight to the front of the line, but also ensure that your comment is read and reacted to on the air. So with that said, let's get to the comment section and see if there's anything here we need to discuss. If not, we'll get out of here, right? John Wynn says, Seahawks versus Jets, winnable game for Seattle's playoff clinch. You're a long way from talking playoffs. We got a lot of football left. You're in an interesting division because you could win the division or not make the playoffs altogether with that division. Like, I still believe the NFC West is a one-bid division. But, John, you've got to – something about you Johns, boy. You're hot or cold, right, with your Seahawks. When they lose, you hate them. They're the worst team in football. You're breaking TVs. They win. Now you're talking about playoffs. Got to find that balance, my man. This is a very winnable game. If you're playing the Jets, I haven't looked at the Week 13 schedule yet, so I can't tell you who's playing who. But if you're playing the Jets this week, I'm trying to think. Have I seen the Seahawks? Yeah, you played the Patriots already, so yes, you're playing that division, and you played the Dolphins already. So the Jets probably are next up on the schedule. That is a game you have to win. If you're trying to make the playoffs, if you're trying to win that division, the Jets stink, and you have to beat them. That's a team you have to beat. They're struggling, and you can't let them off the hook. You got to beat them. So that's one you definitely gotta win that game. Let's see. Samuel writes, if we're gonna lose, just lose. Don't play with my heart like that, bro. I swear the Commanders are going to be the reason I died 10 years before I'm supposed to. I mean, it's crazy. Here's what I'll say to that. I love the fact that the Commanders are never out of it. You can't turn your TV off early just assuming the game's over. Unless the other team possesses the ball with an opportunity to take knees in the victory formation, you can't assume the game's over with this group this year. They're just like, it hasn't always worked out as obviously it didn't Sunday, but the fact that that's the second time they've had some kind of miracle play down the stretch is even more reason why you got to have confidence that 5 gives you a shot no matter what. No matter how poorly you've played, no matter how bleak it may seem, if you've got number 5 back there, you got a shot. Samuel writes, random question, would you bring an expansion team? No. Richmond, Virginia isn't big enough to house an expansion team, and you don't need another team. Like, this isn't a big enough area. Like, I get it, it's DMV. It'd be great to have a team in Virginia, Maryland, and DC, but honestly speaking, this isn't Texas. It's not Florida. You don't need multiple teams in the area, to be honest. You've already got the Ravens in Maryland, and you got, Commanders wherever they end up, whether it's DC or Virginia. You don't need another team in the area. So it's already got enough. Those two are plenty, right? You don't need another team in the area. Samuel writes, I swear some higher power doesn't want to see J.K. Dobbins succeed at football. I feel so bad for him. Well, we don't. I don't. Well, at least I don't. Last night, you guys reported to me about Brandon Graham's injury, which I didn't know about. So I can't say that it's not a serious injury. It doesn't seem like it's like something crazy, but I don't recall him being on the sideline in the second half. And anytime a player is dealing with an injury that isn't significant, they usually come back on the sideline, even if they can't return to the game that night to support their team. Usually, if it's serious, you don't return to the sideline. And so I've seen players in rare cases who've like torn their ACL come back and tell their teammates, man, I'm out for the season. I tore my ACL. I remember Richard Sherman did that. I think it was Sherman. It might have been Earl Thomas who told Richard Sherman that he tore his ACL. I remember that. But that's a rare occurrence. Generally, if something like that happens, you're not coming back on the sidelines. And I don't think we saw him come back. So could be something a little bit more significant. But the way they made it seem, it was like a knee sprain or something like that. But again, it's J.K. Dobbins, so got to take it with a grain of salt, right? Samuel writes, Quentin Johnston went back to rookie form tonight. He had been good this season. Yeah, he did. He turned back into a pumpkin tonight. He had been playing really well, making big plays for this Chargers offense, kind of looking a lot more like the first-round pick that he was drafted to be. And tonight he kind of turned back into the guy that Chargers fans were very upset with and disappointed with a season ago. Let's see. Sean Blake writes, hate to bring it up to the squad, but if Eckler and B-Rob are out, C-Rod was cut. I'd like to see that rookie from Zona Wiley get an opportunity. He flashed in the preseason. No, it wouldn't be him. It'd be Jeremy McNichols would be the lead dog, along with Chris Rodriguez. Remember, they cut Rodriguez, but the thought process was they're going to put him on the practice squad. So he's a phone call away. He'll be back on the roster. I assume that we'll hear tomorrow. On Tuesday, they made some roster moves, and one of those roster moves will be signing Chris Rodriguez to the active roster, bringing him back. And I would assume it'd be another running back that they bring in here for the time being. I don't know if Wiley's still around. If he's still on the practice squad, then they may not go outside of the building. They may just bring Chris Rodriguez back, promote Wiley from the practice squad on game day, and those are your three running backs, right? I could see that being the case, but they just got to get through this week. I think you'll have your full complement of running backs back after the bye. It really just depends on the severity of the Brian Robinson Jr. ankle injury. If it's a significant one, he might not be ready in 3 weeks, because I'm assuming already that he and Eck are out, along with Wiley. All three of them are out this week. Andrew Wiley, that is, not Michael Wiley, the running back. So I'm assuming all three of them are out this week against Tennessee. Then you have the bye week, and then after the bye, you got a full week of practice and preparation that allows you to continue to heal there as well. And then you hope that they're ready to go against the Saints after the bye. So you just need them for this one game, right? So we'll see what happens. Comasel Brown says, if Ravens are hurting for cornerback, I got a great first round for one for them, and I will take some Ravens season tickets for him. LOL. I don't know if they can do anything with Emmanuel Forbes, but we've been trying to pawn this man off on other teams all season, and nobody's biting the bait right now. So it's going to be hard to get rid of him. And you just want one team in the offseason to say, I'll give you a 7th round pick for him. That's all we want at this point. Just give me something. I don't want to cut this guy and get nothing. Just give me a 7th round pick for him, right? Find a team that plays a ton of zone that he can fit into and turn him loose, right? That's all you're trying to do at this point. You have to, yeah, that's all we're trying to do at this point. Niners fan writes, Lou, I need you to release that holiday playlist you promised from last year. Need to take my mind off this season. I am going to do that. I told you I was going to do it. I told you I'm going to have some MusicHead content, and I'm going to get back into the MusicHead space. Kendrick Lamar just released a project, GNX. So I had a chance to listen to it today. And so I'm going to give you my analysis of that. And then we're going to go live with that holiday playlist after Thanksgiving. So I'm going to do it. I told you I was going to do it, and I'm going to do it. I'm a man of my word. DJ23 writes, did we reach on a third-round pick on Ben and Luke? Can we start seeing a return on the investment, especially for Ben in the passing game? He should be above Bates. Well, Ben was the second-round pick, first and foremost. Luke was the third-round pick. I've already told you what I think they view him as. And it's too early to be super upset. Like, look, second-round pick, you expect immediate dividends from. And you can maybe even make a case for a third-round pick as well. So I get it. I'm not here to tell you that you're wrong for wanting more out of those guys, but clearly they're not interested in Luke getting more opportunities. His amount of snaps is diminishing, right? We talked about that today on CNN, that Luke's number of snaps have decreased here over the last month or so. Jaden was never looking for him anyway, it feels like. He did have a catch in the game on Sunday, but it was late. So really don't know if you're going to get more out of Luke or not, but unless it's by force. But in terms of Ben, they view him right now more as a blocker. If he catches anything, similar to John Bates, there to be a blocker. He catches anything, that's an added plus and bonus. But right now, Ben Sinnott isn't viewed as a pass catcher right now. Not for us this year. Maybe next year. But I've already told you they view him as more of a Kyle Juszczyk, H-back, fullback / pseudo tight end, but more of an H-back move piece, right? Block. You saw the block he put on Deron Bland that sprung Jaden Daniels for the touchdown. Like, that's what they view him as, a fullback, an H-back that you throw a bone every now and again. And a lot of people don't like the fact that we spent the second-round pick on that, but that player can be very valuable if you're going to run the football. Very, very valuable. E writes, have to understand our defense late in games collapses, so DQ will make decision to go for it based on what quarter it is and how late in the fourth quarter. That's the perceived inconsistency. Well, if that's the case, then you should go for 2 there in that situation at the end of the game. That's the thing, is he doesn't believe that the defense is going to collapse late. He doesn't see that. The numbers bear that out. We can see it, but he doesn't. He doesn't see that. And that's why he was going for 1. Because he thought if we go to the coin toss, and even if we lose the coin toss, the defense is going to get a stop. No, they weren't. No, they weren't going to get a stop, which is why I would have gone for 2. Hell, even if you kick the extra point, and I've said this, even if you kick the extra point, or if you'd have gone for 2 and gotten it, there was still no guarantee that you're going to even win the game. There was 21 seconds. The Cowboys still had a timeout. All they would have needed was 20 yards to get in the field goal range. Aubrey can make a 68-yard field goal. So there was no guarantee that we would have won the game anyway. Still. But the fact that he didn't even entertain the thought of going for 2 just tells you how much confidence, which he shouldn't have, by the way, that he has in his defense. And that's just his mindset, because he's defensive-minded. He's always going to err on the side of caution, but more importantly, trusting his defense, even when it's not deserved. He said it's why DQ went for the 4th and 2 in the Eagles game instead of kicking the field goal to go up by 1. I think he just understood that the same thought process I had which was a field goal wasn't going to win you that game. You weren't going to win that game 15-13. I think if we were down, you weren't going to win that game 13-12. We were down 12-10 at that time. You weren't going to win that game 13-12. It wasn't going to happen. And he knew that. I knew that. Everybody knew that. That's why the people are, hey, you should have kicked the field goal. Like, for what? You still were going to have to score a touchdown. You still were going to have to score again. Like, the Eagles weren't done scoring. He knew that. And everybody else knew that. I didn't have a problem. I had a problem with the play call, not the decision. Right? He went for it in that situation because he thought that we were going to need more points. Not because he trusted the defense. That if you trust the defense, you kick the field goal, right? Because you're gonna make that 1 point lead stick if you felt confident in the defense. You don't go for the touchdown there if you think the defense is gonna get a stop. So it kind of goes against what you're trying to explain, E. Like, he went for the touchdown against the Eagles. He went for the fourth down because he just knew we needed more points. The Eagles were getting into a rhythm. They scored a touchdown on their last drive. We needed more points because the Eagles weren't done scoring, and he could sense that. If you trust your defense, you kick the field goal because in your mind you're saying, hey, we're going to stop them. We're going to make these 13 points hold up. That's not how he felt. That's not how he felt. EB trying to crash the party. Get out of here, guy. Anyway, that was the last comment. We'll get out of here. Good bounce back win for the Ravens on the road against a quality opponent in the Chargers. Harbaugh Bowl III goes in favor of John Harbaugh for the third time. He is undefeated against his brother now, 3-0 in Harbaugh Bowls, as the Ravens get it done 30-23 on the road. Bounce back from the tough loss to Pittsburgh a week ago. Climb within a half game of first place in that division at 8-4 now, with the Steelers' loss on Thursday night to the Cleveland Browns, dropping them to 8-3. So things are getting tight in that division. Meanwhile, for the Chargers, they now only find themselves a half game ahead of the Denver Broncos for second place in their own division. Broncos won on Sunday against the Raiders, improving to 7-5. Meanwhile, the Chargers dropped to 7-4. I still think the Chargers are a playoff team. They got an interesting stretch here coming up to finish up the season. They play those same Broncos I just mentioned. They play the Chiefs again once more. I think they have the Raiders. Let's check their schedule quickly before we get out of here. I feel like they play every team in the division once more. I don't think they've played any of those teams twice yet. So if my memory serves me correct, they should have a game against all the teams in the division once more. Chargers and Falcons next week. That'll be a good one. It's actually a playoff. That could be a playoff eliminator, right? That's a big one on the road at the Falcons. Then they have the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. That should be fun. Then they have the Buccaneers. That could be an elimination game there. Then they have the Broncos. That's a big one. That right there could definitely be an eliminator of sorts there. That's on Thursday Night Football. That's going to be a doozy right there. That's good. That's some good stuff. They flexed that game. That's the first time we've seen a Thursday night game flexed. That was originally Browns and Bengals, I believe, is what that originally was. They just flexed that out and made it Broncos Chargers. It's a good decision. They had the Patriots in week 17, and they finished up with the Raiders. So if they could just make it to, I think the magic number in both conferences is 10 for the wild card. You may need 11 in the AFC. If they could get to their final two games with 9 wins, so essentially what I'm saying is over the next 4 weeks, win 2 of your next 4. That'll get you to 9-6. I could see them winning against the Patriots and the Raiders to finish up to get to 11 wins. So they've got a good path that they're on. They just got to find a way to get to 9 wins over the next 4 weeks. They can do that. I find it hard to believe that someone's going to be left out of the dance with 11 wins in either conference. So this is a tough loss tonight because you started off so well and you had some success early with the ground game, but Dobbins gets injured. You don't have any consistency on the ground, which really killed you in terms of sustaining offense in the second half, and you fall to the Ravens 30-23. But solid performance. Just got to be better, got to eliminate some of the penalties. No turnovers, I don't think, on either side tonight. So that was a good thing. But ultimately, the Chargers didn't make enough plays. A couple of penalties that hurt them. Didn't make enough plays. So okay. E says, I know I'm not articulating it clearly, but that's what I'm saying. Kicking the extra point was gut feel, and the defense was rested at that point. And that may have been his thinking. I'm pretty sure that was his thought process. Like, hey, let's reset this game. We're the better team. That's what he's thinking. But my point was, we weren't the better team in that game. We were never the better team. We didn't play with the urgency the Cowboys played with. We didn't play with the physicality, the veracity that they played with in that game. We never dominated the game. We trailed for most of the game, at least the second half, at least. We trailed for the bulk of the second half, but we led most of the game because we led the entire first half until right before halftime when they kicked the field goal. Then we came out and took the lead on the opening possession, but missed the extra point. They went down on the next possession, scored the touchdown, made the extra point, and they never trailed again in the game, right? So, we never really established ourselves. And for him to think, remember, the defense was never on the field down the stretch. The last time the defense was on the field, they gave up a touchdown. So, again, my thought process was the possession before that, the defense gave up a field goal. There was a turnover, and then the defense gave up a touchdown. What makes you think that the Cowboys were going to do anything but score if they won the toss? That was, even if they're rested, that was my thought process, is the defense wasn't getting a stop. They haven't gotten one in a crucial situation at the end of a ball game all season long. So why would you even think that kicking the extra point? And again, because in his mind, he's not thinking about past games or the failures of this defense. The next time is going to be the time they're going to finally get the stop. That's what he's thinking. That's not what I'm thinking as a fan. I'm thinking you put them on the field in a crucial situation and they're going to get got. So instead of putting them in a position to get got, go win the game so you don't have to rely on them. That was my thought process. Anyway, I digress. But okay, so you were saying the same thing. We're on the same page. We're kind of thinking the same way. Okay. Gotcha, E. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T, here on this installment of Monday Night Football Overtime. Ravens get it done, 30-23, improve to 8-4, climb within a half game of first place in the AFC North. Meanwhile, the Chargers fall to 7-4, remain in second place in the AFC West division, but only a half game ahead of the surging Denver Broncos. That's going to be a fun, AFC wildcard race. It's going to be I think it's going to be fun in both conferences, especially the AFC though, especially the AFC. But anyway, J.2626, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Feels like it's been a while since me and you chopped it up. Glad to hear from you. He says, do you feel like JD5 got his confidence back? Those last two drives seem to get the swag back to me. I don't think they got his confidence back. I'd have to see it to believe it. I don't believe those two drives did anything. To me, that was not real football. I said that already. Like, when real football was being played, we scored 9 points. at the end of the game when the Cowboys started playing prevent defense, which people always say prevent defense prevents you from winning the game. That's exactly what Dallas ended up almost doing, is preventing themselves from running the game. All game long, they've been playing sticky man coverage, forcing Jaden to beat that coverage. We weren't able to do it, and they were getting off the field. They were pressuring him. They were making him uncomfortable. And then all of a sudden, they're rushing forward. They're playing off coverage. They're playing zone. They're giving up easy throws in front of them. Don't want to give up the big chunk play. But in the process of doing that, you're giving up big chunk plays, right? Instead of you continuing to play the coverage that got you the lead and got you in this position, you're now playing coverages that allow 12 and 16 and 18-yard gains that you weren't giving up. If you just play the same defense you've been playing the whole game, they would have continued to shut us out and they would have finished the job. But instead, they elected to play oft and soft, and we took advantage of it and we moved it down the field and we scored a touchdown. The second touchdown was fluky, right? They're worried about defending the sidelines. They turned Terry loose. It's a great throw by JD5, right? Right in between all of those Cowboy defenders. And not only was it in between, it was on the money. He was able to catch it on a dead sprint so that he didn't have to slow down. And that's what allowed him to accelerate past all those Dallas Cowboy defenders. Great block by Noah Brown up the sideline for the touchdown. But that wasn't real football. Now, he made great plays, but I'd like to think that if we'd gone to overtime, and maybe the Dallas Cowboys defense might have been shot at that point. You know, you shell shock, you give up those two big, plays, or that big play, and the possession before you give up the drive, and maybe, just maybe, and we also had a field goal in there too, right? A field goal drive in there that we were able to get up and kind of put ourselves back in a position to have a chance. But maybe all of those, scoring drives or all of those things that transpired might have zapped their confidence. But for that to bleed over into another game, I don't buy that one bit. You hit the reset button, you play real football, and Tennessee's going to come out and do the things that the Eagles did to us, that the Cowboys did to us, and he's going to have to execute all over again. So, no, I don't think those last two drives got his swag back. I have to see it to believe it. Right now, we're swagless on offense. So, we'll see what happens. All right. Anyway, I digress. We'll see what happens. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope his swag is back, and I hope he is confident, and I hope he's ready to shred the Tennessee Titans and get back that mojo that we had earlier. But it starts with him throwing the ball to 17. We're going to watch the film tomorrow. If you're a member of the mob, we're going to do that tomorrow during the day. And I guarantee you that we're going to see Terry open, or at a bare minimum, Terry in a position where if it's Noah Brown or Terry and all things are equal, who are you throwing the ball to? And he keeps throwing it to 85. And I've been talking about this for months now, right? Like, I think I started talking about this probably after the Arizona game, maybe I started talking about this. If not the Arizona game, definitely Cleveland. I'm like, it might have been Baltimore. But I remember saying he's very comfortable throwing to Noah Brown, almost as if he was throwing to Noah Brown all summer instead of Terry McLaurin. JD wasn't running with the ones during summer for the most part. He was running with the twos early on, and it almost feels like one of those types of relationships. I'm very aware that Noah Brown wasn't in camp with us pretty much the entire training camp and preseason. He got there at the end, so it's not like he got really comfortable throwing to Noah Brown as a backup receiver, and now he's more comfortable throwing to him than Terry, who was a starter with getting the 1 reps. It just doesn't make sense that he keeps going to 85 over 17. He's got to stop doing that. But anyway, I digress. Want to give a shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this stream. If you're out there and you have not bet with BetUS, you got a chance to take advantage of this opportunity. Use the promo code YouTube150 to get you 150% off, 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit of up to $2,000, and 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits when you use the promo code YouTube150. That's 125% on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000. So use that promo code YouTube150 over at betus.com. Once again, bet with the best. That's BetUS. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Until next time, you guys have a good one. Take care. God bless and good night.